headmaster of the Academy of Science and Technology. I know this is a big night for your kiddos. They look great and they look very nervous. We remind our kids of how they felt when they were in 8th grade all the time. One of them gives them the best piece of advice is not to nervously eat 4 or 5 or 6 cookies, because we have cookies and water and everything in there to kind of calm you down. And he thought he felt fine, is what he said. And he goes, I wasn't nervous, but I realize now I ate 6, maybe 7, maybe 8, and they are the Sam's cookies. They're not this big around. And he said halfway through his interview, he was like, oh, this isn't good. Like, he realized how nervous he was. So he goes, this is my advice. Take cookies, but don't take 7, you know, and so he did a lot of that. I wanted to go over a little bit about what's going on right now with your student. You may get a text if they still have their phone that they're done in just a couple of minutes. 10, 15 minutes from now, it may be 30 to 45 to an hour from now when they get done, because of the number that we're interviewing, and we divide it up into sessions, and then we take the students that are here, we start working them through. And so sometimes if all of them are really early, we have to get through every one of them. So we do 2 sessions a night, 3 different nights. So making it to this point is a huge deal. Just like I said in the email that I sent out to congratulate them about coming in and setting up an interview, we had the largest Academy application class we've ever had in 33 years. So we're talking over 260 applications. So just to make it to interviews, it was difficult. When I tell you I've lost sleep, I've lost sleep. Our teachers, you know, we're elated that so many people want to come, but then it also, we have all these great applications and great kiddos that we couldn't move on to this point, and then we moved all of you on, and then only about half of the students that are being interviewed tonight will move on to be invited to become members of the Academy of Science and Technology for 2028 for our class. And that really just has to do with the number of applications and then the number of size, and we'll kind of go over those pieces tonight. But thank you so much for raising incredible children. In that sense, special thank you to those of you who brought daughters. Not that we don't love your son, but sons that you brought, but we had a very boy-heavy class last year, just due to the sheer number of applications. We didn't have a lot of girls apply last year, so we have a very boy-heavy class. And for our 2 freshman teachers that teach all the freshmen, they're like, we need girls, we need girls. So we had a much more even, I think it was a 47-53 this year, 47% female, 53% male on the applicants this year. So we were elated to see that. So thank you, especially for having girls 13 years ago. We appreciate that. So what's next after this? And I'll kind of come back to bits and pieces of this. After all the different interviews go on, so we're interviewing tonight, we're interviewing again on the 24th. It was the only day that was available. We know that that is the night before science fair. It is for us too. The 3 different types of emails will go out. We are hoping to send those emails out on February 2nd. That is our goal. It is a Friday. We do that purposefully. I call it like cheerleader tryout is what we do it, because we know they're going to be upset, and honestly, we'd rather them have the weekend than go upset to class on Friday. For those that don't get that invitation to come. And so they'll get 1 of 3 letters. 1, a no invitation to join letter. If by no means do we think that your child is not intelligent or not articulate, and we'll get into like some of the things that we're looking for. We will invite a very small amount of students to be alternates. Traditionally, that is what we have done. We do that because when we invite students to come, we invite more than we typically take as a class size, because we will in fact have students that say no. Some of your students will come home in the next couple of days and tell you, hey, by the way, I don't want to do this. I really want to stay with my friends from York and go to Grand Oaks, or hey, I really want to be with the friends I've been in the Woodlands Feeder since kindergarten. They will, and I would ask you, actually beg of you, if they haven't had the conversation with you yet, point blank ask them, what happens if you get in? A lot of times GT kids, we have it, I say we because I say I'm a recovering GT kid, it really never goes away. We tend to think, people call us pessimist, we're just realist. Like, we have a tendency to be like, well, that's not gonna happen. And so they really don't, it doesn't stick in their head that they might actually get in. And they might actually have to leave some of their best friends who are not coming. So I do ask you and beg of you, please have that conversation if you haven't had it with your child. Is this We will invite a certain number over. Typically, we invite about 75 to 80 students to join us. Typically, our incoming class ends up being somewhere between 70 and 75, just based on natural attrition into that. This year, I have a feeling that most of the kids that we invite will in fact take it because of the number of applicants that we had, but we don't know that not until we send it out. We do ask those students who are invited, the turnaround is probably less than 10 days on when we need an information back from you. And we do that for a number of reasons. Number one, are we gonna be able to pull alternates? Number two, we also have to get course selection done. And number three, we need to make sure that we start the process that we need to, because there will be other steps of what we have to do. So that's kind of what will happen, but like I said, I'm aiming for February the 2nd. That is my goal. That's a Friday, to send that information out after school, after they get out of school on Friday. I would never send it during the school day. I would never do that. Prior to being the headmaster of the academy, I've spent the last 17 years at College Park as the college career counselor. So my job was always dealing with admissions on the other side, and a lot of our admissions reps from different colleges would always ask, well, wouldn't you love to work for a college? Wouldn't you love to be in admissions? And I would, no, never. I would never want to be on that. And that's essentially what we're doing. And I hated when the colleges would tell the kids in the middle of the day whether or not they got into UT or Harvard. That was great when they dropped it at noon on a Thursday, which I think is cruel and unusual, so you shouldn't do that. So going back, I know the formatting of this is messed up and I apologize. We've gotten most of the way through the timeline. You've gotten all the way through this January. You're in your interviews right now. Those letters will be mailed home, and by letters I do mean an email, and it will go to the email address that this email went to set up the interview. In mid-February, like I said, it's a kind of an early mid-February, student acceptances are due. I will send all this information out to those students who are asked to become part of the 28 class in late February, and that would be on February the 21st. That technically is late February since February is a little short. We will have a registration night for our students, and that will be all the students that are coming in. That is a Wednesday night. It's the Wednesday after Valentine's Day. And what will happen is the kids will come in and they will select courses to be in the academy. They'll work a little bit on a 4-year plan. We do expect students, almost every junior high right now in Conroe ISD is working on course selection for next year and for their zoned high school. I need your children to go ahead and do the course selection for the high school they're zoned for, whether that's College Park or Oak Ridge or the Woodlands or Grand Oaks. They need to be doing regular course registration. Number one, because they may not get into the academy and they need to have course registration done. And number two, I will say it as a person who spent a lot of time as a counselor and went to junior highs, to hear kids go, oh, I'm gonna get in the academy, I'm not gonna do your course selection. That doesn't bode well with their friends, with other teachers, and again, they may not be accepted into the academy. So it's something to keep in mind, but we do expect them to do course registration. For any students, the same night on the 21st of February, for students who are not automatically zoned to College Park, so anybody that's not currently at Knox or in this feeder zone, you would also have to do your transfer that night, because there are several steps that you have to take to transfer from your current feeder zone into College Park. It's not super complicated, but it will need to be done that night. May 9th is a dessert reception for all of our incoming families, and I just give you these dates now for those of you who want those dates now. And then May 24th, 25th, and 26th is Fish Camp. That is Memorial Day weekend. We are very aware that that's Memorial Day weekend. But it is something, I do not use the word mandatory, but I also do not use the word mandatory. It's not mandatory because I know I don't say the word mandatory because some of you may have another child that's getting married that weekend. And by all means, please go to your other child's wedding and don't let your child go to Fish Camp instead of their sister's wedding. That would be like one kid suggested last year, I can miss it. We're like, no, your parents really don't want you to miss your sister's wedding. I thought it was sweet because he said, my sister doesn't care. And I'm like, as a sister of a little brother, I don't know if I would care or not. I do now as a parent, clearly I would care. But that is a big weekend for our kids. It is the most requested thing that our kids go through. Our current seniors did not get a fish camp, and they remind me of that, and no joke, at least once a week, because they were the
COVID class that was very effective. They did all of this over Zoom. They did every interview over Zoom, and then they did not get a fish camp, and they are trying to convince me to let them as a senior class spend the whole weekend in this high school by themselves. And I'm like, have you lost your minds? Like, not even for a second would I allow that to happen. Like, it's just, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. One of the things that we'll talk about a little bit tonight is course selection. And I only bring this up because I'll send this information out, and it's relevant for you to kind of think about it now, because being in the academy is a commitment of time, not only outside of the school day, but in the school day as well. So typically an academy student will have 3 academy classes a year, all 4 years. College Park is on a 7-period schedule, which means they see the same 7 classes every day for about 45 to 50 minutes with a 7-minute passing period in between. So there are a lot of times when they're coming off a block, they're not used to homework being due the next day. And now homework is due the next day, and they're taking 7 classes. Now they're learning half the amount of material because they're not in a block class that's an hour and a half long, but they are having to balance 7 periods a day. I am a firm believer that your children need an outlet or a class that is not academic in nature. You will never hear me say your kid needs to quit band to be in the academy. Your kid needs to quit this to be in the academy. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not. That's going to be their decision or your decision. That's never going to be mine. I was a band kid, for Pete's sake. I was drum major, dated band director's son. I was very into band, very, very into bands. Like, for a long time I dated the band director's son. He did not, no, he's crazy. But it made my mom mad, so it was fine. I was that kid occasionally. But what they are mandated to take when they get to high school, every student takes an English course. All of our academy students are in an academy math course. They take an academy science course. They take a social studies course. All academy freshmen take a class called STS, it's Special Topics in Science. In that class, it's a research-based course. It is a level course, meaning it gets level grade points. So in high school, students take either a level course, an honors course, or an AP dual credit course. Level courses get 4 points if they make an A. Honors courses get 5 points if they make an A. AP and dual credit courses get 6 points if they make an A. And you can read all about that in the CISD academic program guide. I'm not gonna go into that. But STS is mandatory for all academy students. So when all is said and done, 5 of those 7 class periods are predetermined. Now within English and history, students will be given the option on what class to take. So our freshmen have the option of taking level English 1 or honors English 1. In history, they'll be given, or social studies, they'll be given the option to take level world geography, honors world geography, or AP human geography. Most academy students, not all, most academy students take the highest level of every academic course, but it is not required for them to do so. Again, you're never gonna hear me say, your kid has to be an AP English. That's not my job. I don't decide that. However, in math and science, they have no choice. In the academy, the only biology class they can take as a freshman is honors biology. No choice. So I had a sweet angel, one of your children was like, well, what if I don't wanna take advanced math? You don't have a choice. You have advanced math, and you'll have several different math tracks to choose from, but when it comes to science and math, you're always at an advanced level, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. We do know that STS class is a level course, so it's not treated like an AP course, but there's quite a bit of work in it. That is the class, because it is a research-based class, that we build science fair into. So yes, science fair is done as a course. That doesn't mean they're not still working on it at home, but it is a chunk of it. So freshman year, and we'll get into that, freshman year they are still required to do science fair in their freshman year. After freshman year, science fair becomes a choice, but it is not a choice their freshman year. Some of them are disappointed to know that they do in fact have to continue science fair as a freshman. Because of those 5 courses, that only leaves 2 slots to be open. So it's really important for students to start thinking, what do I wanna do? What do I wanna get out of the way? What do I love to do? If they're a band kiddo and they wanna finish up their foreign language, that's the other 2 spots. Now band, their whole freshman year counts as PE. So it does take care of their PE credit, and then when they go to band their sophomore year, that counts as a fine arts credit. So there's a lot of double dipping when it comes to like band counting for more than one thing. On the flip side, orchestra is not you don't march in orchestra. So orchestra is a fine art, so they still need a PE credit. And we'll talk at course selection night, I'm not gonna get into it now, but we'll talk about different things that students do. They take PE in summer school. They have already taken health in junior high, so their health credit counts. They may place into, if they already speak a foreign language, they can take a foreign language placement exam, and they can jump into the foreign language, especially if they're already bilingual, that we offer. So at College Park, we offer Spanish, French, German, Japanese, and Chinese. So students can place into any of those classes if they speak and write. I don't always have to say write into that. And we'll go into a lot of depth. But I do need everybody to understand that's those tough conversations. GT kids want to do everything because they're good at everything, typically, except cleaning your room and keeping organized. But like honestly, they really do. You may buy them all different. They're extremes before they get to high school. They're either the most organized junior high kid on the planet, or you buy folders of different colors, but there's no paper in them. All the papers are like shoved at the bottom of their backpack, so that your child can get a doctorate and have a junior high backpack that looks like that. I'm living proof that that can happen. So with regard to, sorry, we put this out of order. I talked a little bit about this earlier when I talked about like students making it to this interview process. There are two different terms that we used in when I was dealing mainly with seniors applying to colleges. So when we tell a senior that when they're applying to college, they may be admissible, but they may not be admitted, because there is a difference between admissibility and admission. Okay, admissibility means that if they admit someone to a college, the college is saying, we know that academically you're going to be fine. Academically, you're going to be able to handle what we throw at you. For example, Rice University, in any given year, Rice only accepts about 12% of their kids that apply every year, okay? So their admission rate is about 12%, give or take, in any given year. If you ask them how many of the students who apply to Rice are admissible, they will tell you typically between 90 and 95%, meaning any of the 12% they take, 90% of those kids to begin with were admissible. They just can't take everyone. If I could take all 260 plus kids that applied, I'd do it in a heartbeat, but I cannot do that. If I could take every kid that we're interviewing, I would do it in a heartbeat. But what's really tough for both them and for you to understand is that admissibility versus admission. We have to look at, the academy is a school within a school. I wish some days, although I don't really wish this, I wish some days all we did was give them a test. And I wish the only thing we looked at was the test scores. But even within this room, let me be honest, some of your kids' test scores are here comparatively, some of your kids' test scores are here comparatively, some of your kids' test scores are here. There's a whole variety of test scores being interviewed right now on purpose. They're all admissible. We know they could do the work. We saw their grades, we saw what they were doing, we read their teacher recs. That's why they're here. But we're not gonna admit everybody. And that's all I can say, is that that's what it is. We have to look at, and what colleges call the term, and we really do too, it's called crafting the class. We have to look at a lot of factors, and a lot of times you'll call me afterwards if your kiddo doesn't get in. If they do get in, you typically do not call me, but you'll call me if they don't get in, and you're like, I want the one reason you didn't let my kiddo in. And there's typically not, I can't say, oh, it's because of this. Short of them starting a fire in an interview room, I can't say they did this and we're not gonna let them in. Okay, it's a very holistic process where we spend a ton of time. Our teachers spent the entirety of winter break trying to read through applications to make the cut. They're in there doing interviews now. We will meet again. They meet after the first set of interviews, they meet after the second set of interviews, we'll meet after the third set of interviews, and then we will take an entire day where we will be back in this room as a faculty and we will be admitting students at that point based on the interviews and the applications that the students have already turned in. So it's a really tough decision when we make it, and it's very hard for the kids and for you all not to take it personally. And we give the example that just happened a couple of weeks ago. There's a student that went to Knox, applied to the academy, she was already zoned to College Park, applied to the academy in the 8th grade. The academy said, no, thank you. She came, she interviewed, she made the first round into interviews, but then was not invited as an 8th grader. Came to College Park because that's where she's zoned. She got into Gale in the fall. Didn't hurt her. She's still achieving her dreams, still did exactly what she wanted to. She's pre-med at Gale. Her not being in the academy didn't stop her from getting into an Ivy League school. Does that make sense? This is not the end of your very wonderful student's academic career. They may feel like that for a hot minute. They absolutely may feel like that for a hot minute, but it is not true, and I need them to know that. So things to consider, and just as a reminder, if you get a text from your kiddos, you are more than welcome to leave. Do not care, that does not offend me at all. They'll be waiting for you right outside the front to do that. Miss Celeste that's out there, if your kiddo gets done and they don't have their phone, they'll send the kiddo in so that you'll know that they're done. If you need to leave, like I would leave if my kid was done, that's what I would do. Just things to consider, and I kind of talked about this at information night. First and foremost, your students' interests. Clearly, they have an interest in STEM, but also what are their interests outside of STEM? What is the time commitment that they're both willing to give and are able to give? We have some kids out there that are good at everything, and a lot of the things that we require in the academy take some time. And they may want to do part of those requirements, but not do all of those requirements. So what is their time commitment? What are their future plans? And then, like I said, it's a family decision. It's a big deal, especially if you're driving here. We know that you can set up carpools, you can do those sorts of things if you live a little bit further away, but you're also committing, kids can't drive and park on campus at College Park until they are juniors. Okay, so even if they turn 16 as a sophomore, they cannot park. Okay, we do not provide transportation for anyone outside of the College Park feeder. So if your child lives at Grand Oaks, Oak Ridge, or the Woodlands, they don't ride a bus to school. You or someone will have to bring them, okay? Just as a reminder, with the academy, there are 3 major components. There's the course component, the career component, and a research component. And so when we're talking about that course component, like I mentioned, we're on a 7-period day. So a lot of our students have already finished Algebra 1. If your child is in 8th grade math, or they're at a school that offers an 8th grade math because they're in a private school, they will have to take Algebra 1 in summer school because we do not offer Algebra 1 as part of the academy curriculum. So every one of our students comes into the academy having already completed Algebra 1. And so if we accept your student and they have not completed Algebra 1 or are not currently enrolled in Algebra 1, we will be reaching out to you separately to make sure you get information about summer school opportunities. Most of our students are in Algebra 1 right now, or they're in geometry right now. And I'll talk a little bit about if they're in higher math than that in just a second. So if a student is in Algebra 1 right now, in the 8th grade, then when they get to the academy, they will take honors geometry as a freshman, they will take honors Algebra 2 as a sophomore, they will take dual credit pre-calculus as a junior, and then their senior year, they will either take AB calculus or BC calculus. Okay, for those students who, the BC calculus is kind of the faster, harder class. Calculus AB is the first semester of college calculus taught over the course of a whole year. Okay, that's AB. 1 college semester taught over a year. Okay, BC is 1 year of college calculus taught over a year. Do y'all see the difference? Like 1 semester over a year versus 1 year over a year. So the BC class in actuality is AB and BC. So it's kind of moving at a faster speed. If students come in honors Algebra 2, this is where it gets kind of tricky. So if they're done with geometry, which means when they finish 8th grade, technically means that they're 2 years ahead. Some of them will take honors Algebra 2, and then as a freshman, they'll go to dual credit pre-cal as a sophomore. They'll take BC calculus as a junior, and then they will take a class that we teach and that both academy and non-academy students can take called multivariable calculus. So that's for students who have gone past BC, but they're still in high school, because they will take math every year as a member of the academy. Even if they've fulfilled their math requirements for the state, they haven't fulfilled them for us, okay? For some of your students, they got 2 years ahead, and they get to high school, and they get in Algebra 2, and they're like, wait a minute. In the STEM, so you think about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, some kids are big S's, little t, little e, little m. But in junior high, they just accelerate the M anyway. Okay? They're big S's, little t, little e, little m. For some students, and when they start in Algebra 2, Honors Algebra 2, they're gonna know by the end of Honors Algebra 2, I need to slow down in math. So for those students, they're gonna go Honors Algebra 2, AP Statistics as a 10th grader, then they're going to take Pre-Cal as a junior, and then they'll take AV Calculus as a senior. Does that make sense? It slows them down a little bit. So some of you have children, or you may be thinking about doing this. If your child is in Algebra 2 right now, that is a rarity. It does happen occasionally, but they're in Algebra 2 right now. If they are in Algebra 2, when they get to us as freshmen, they're going to take AP Statistics, because then they're gonna take Pre-Cal as sophomores, BC Calculus as a junior, and then they're gonna take multivariable calculus as a senior. Otherwise, they will run out of math before their senior year, and you have the mathiest children in the building, which are most likely going to go into either an engineering or some sort of physics-related major when they go to college, sitting out of math the year before they go to college. And as the college and career counselor, that made 0 sense to me whatsoever. So that's what we're going to do. If your child is sitting in geometry, let me be very clear right now, because this is the #1 question I'm being asked by parents. Well, my kid's in geometry, and I want them to take the Algebra 2 credit by exam in the summer so they can be even further ahead. Don't. Do not do that. If you ask all of our calc teachers, Algebra 2 is a fundamental course that they need to take as a class over the course of time to get those fundamentals for Pre-Cal and calculus. So it's important for them to sit in an Algebra 2 class. Okay, we know that some students already have taken that Algebra 2 credit by exam because it hit the news and people talked about it and all of that. And you can't go back and not apply that credit. If you've got it, we've got to take it. But please understand that is not what we want your children to do. They can still get to multivariable calculus starting in Algebra 2. Okay, does that make sense with a math sequence? The way the science core works, every freshman in the academy takes STS and Honors Bio as a freshman. They all take Honors Chemistry as a sophomore. They take AP Physics as a junior, and then their senior year, they're enrolled in either AP Physics or AP Bio or AP Chemistry. So they're still sitting in an academy class as a senior. There are some times when a kid can finish all the academy requirements and only be in 2 academy classes as a senior. Sometimes that just happens, and we're fine with that, because like I said, you're typically in 3 a year, but sometimes they're only in 2 as a senior. Really just depends on what all they take as a sophomore and junior. The technology core, because AST, the T is for technology, all of our students are required to take at least 1 computer science course. Technically, they need 2 technology credits, so they can take, they can choose from AP Computer Science Principles, Honors Computer Science, or AP Computer Science. They can actually test out of Honors Computer Science. A lot of our kids program for fun, and so they know a lot more than what they think they do. They still have to sign up for Honors Computer Science, but then they can actually test out of Honors into AP. They do need to take a second course, so a lot of our kids take AP Computer Science Principles as their required course, and then AP Computer Science as their second technology. A lot of our STEM kids, like I said, the S may be big, and the E and the M may be big, but they really don't like the T. They still have to take 1 computer science course because it is required, but there are a litany of classes that they can substitute for a second technology credit, and it can be anything from digital media and arts to an upper level engineering class to a health science class here at the school, because we are aware that a lot of kids that are interested in becoming doctors do not in fact want to write code. Like, we get that. When AST was formed 30 years ago, technology was a required course, not only in the state of Texas, but also with the district. Now these children can teach us as the adults in the building about technology. They do all the time, about what to do, and so trying to fulfill those doesn't always work in their schedule. Students do have to take an additional course through the academy, either AP Chem, AP Physics, AP Biology, not when it counts in their senior year, but in a different way. Most will take AP Environmental Science, a lot will take AP Statistics, Organic Chem, Anatomy and Physiology, SRD2, which is kind of almost an independent study in kind of engineering, and SRD is the wildest class. It is whatever the kids need it to be. The curriculum is based on who's in it, so it kind of shifts every year. A student that is enrolled in AP Statistics as a standalone math course. So let's say that your kiddo takes, and this is getting into the weeds and I apologize. Let's say that your kiddo takes Honors Algebra 2 their freshman year and realizes they want to slow down in math, and so they take AP Stats as a sophomore. If they take AP Stats as a standalone math class, which is fine for us, they can't count it as one of their extra academy classes. Does that make sense? They can't double dip like that. It's gonna be a little weird because y'all's kids are the first kids coming in with a new math track like this, but we'll go over it so many times you're gonna be sick of it. And they know what they need, they get it into their heads really quickly, and most of them take additional, because they are STEMmy kids, they take additional math and science anyway. Answering the question I get all the time, can I do other things in the academy? You absolutely can. In 2020, the valedictorian of College Park High School was an academy student that was also drum major in the band. If anybody spent more time in the band hall, it would only be the people that taught the class. Like, Sunny was valedictorian and in the academy. She's a sophomore, senior at Rice this year. That was 4 years goes by really quick. So, it's one of those things that you can do that. I will tell you, whether your child's in the academy or not in the academy, whether they're at College Park, the Woodlands High, Oak Ridge, or Grand Oaks, if you are a band parent that freshman year, and your kid is taking all accelerated courses, just hold on. It will not actually physically kill you or them. It is going to feel like that. The schedule for band it's hard. The 6A high school marching band is, even if you were in band in high school, you think you have no idea. It's a big deal. They can do it. We have a chunk of academy kids in band this year. They all made it through. It's just learning to time manage. You will hear us say over and over and over again, is the coursework difficult in the academy? Absolutely. It's very difficult. But the most difficult part about being in the academy is balancing time. That really is it. I tell kids all the time, do I think you need an outlet? Absolutely. Do I think you can go home and play a video game? Sure. But you can play a video game 30 minutes. You can't play a video game 4 hours. And that's something that they've got to learn to balance. Right now, they can typically do what they want time-wise and still get everything done. And it is kind of a culture shock when they all of a sudden cannot do that. And it can be very overwhelming for them. And we work with them, that's why we literally give them a planner. We go over at Fish Camp how to use a planner. You would think very, very bright children would know how to use a planner. They do not, because they're very bright children. They're very intelligent kids. Their frontal lobe, not fully developed. They're highly intelligent, but their organizational skills aren't always to the point that they need to be. So we talk to them a lot about time management. I showed them the face of my phone, and they're like, Dr. Krill, there's Facebook on there, is that TikTok on there, and Instagram? Yes, all of those things are on there. And I'm just like y'all, I can sit there on TikTok, and I think I'm on there 10 minutes, and I'm on there an hour. And so if I'm on TikTok an hour, and I have controls set on my phone, if it tells me I'm on something for an hour, then I can't gripe about grading late in my room. That's my fault, because I just wasted an hour. So I have kids that will tell me, and parents that will call and tell me, well, my kid was up until midnight doing homework. Cool. What did they do when they got home from school? Well, they took a nap. That's fine. I respect the nap game. For 2 hours. No, they went to bed. They need to nap, they need to rest, they need to have a snack, they need to do that, but they've also got to get in a rhythm of working. They also need to have fun. They need to see their friends. They need to have friends that are in the academy and aren't in the academy. If every one of their friends is in the academy, I tell them, I was like, y'all, that stinks. You're in a school with 3,300 children. Typically our kids that are involved in something other than the academy have friends in both groups. That's why we highly encourage that. We want kids to meet a lot of kids. And the most frequently asked question that I get, and I kind of went over this the night of information night, I'm always asked, do I get a better education at the academy than I do at College Park or the Woodlands or Grand Oaks or TWCA or Oak Ridge? No, you get a different education. It's not about better, it's about a fit for a kiddo. Okay, I can't sit there and tell you that everybody's the same, but your kid, even if they don't get into the academy, they still have access to every AP class that a non-academy student does. Multivariable calculus is open to every student who's finished BC Calculus. There are, just in this building, we're the only school that teaches multivariable, but like, it's open to everybody. It's the same thing as AP Statistics, it's the same thing as AP Bio. Everybody has access to that. If your kiddo does not get into the academy and loves robotics, they can still be on the robotics team. They can still do DI, they can still do science fair, we highly encourage it, but it's not required. Within the academy, they have requirements, required extra STEM courses, required explorations that they do, required internship, and then required research and problems every year. So I always say that it's the good cookie theory. Parents would ask me all the time, well, what's a good college for my kid to go to? Well, if you ask me what a good cookie is, 10 out of 10 times I'm gonna say a Thin Mint. Like, I'll push a kid down to get a Thin Mint. Like, I don't care. Like, I love Thin Mints, but I really wouldn't push a kid down. But my niece loves those big soft cookies that have all the icing on them that you could buy at like Target. They're seasonal, they're like pink or yellow, they just have to do with the season. She loves those soft cookies. My brother loves peanut butter cookies, my mom loves Christmas cookies. It's just one of those things that it's different. What's good for one person is not necessarily good for someone else. It's all about fit and it's all about that. Every year, students do have to do a research component in their freshman year. They are required to do science fair, as I said. 10th through 12th grade, they can continue to do science fair. A lot of our kids do science fair all 4 years. A lot of them do not. They pick another, what we call research and problem area. So they can choose science fair as a research and problem area. They can choose destination imagination. They can choose quiz bowl and science bowl. Quiz bowl and science bowl are just what they sound like. If you remember the game shows of like college kids competing against each other with buzzers. Science bowl is all science with an occasional math question, and it is the wildest thing I've ever seen. I went to my first science bowl tournament on Friday. It was wild. The John Cooper School, they have a kid, I don't know who he is, but he can answer every question I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm like, who are you? Like, I almost stole him. He's a senior though, wouldn't do any good. Like, he was incredible, and I mean that against our entire team. Like, he just knew everything. It was, and they can go from a high-level physics question to a chemistry question to a compound interest banking question. It's crazy. Quiz Bowl takes math and science, but it also does every subject. So they may get a question about American literature, and then they turn around and get another question that is physics related. Then they get a pop culture question about who the Manning brothers are. And there's nothing like watching a kid who's never seen a football game in their entire life that can answer a physics question, and then they ask about Peyton Manning, and you're just like, nope. Like, they have no idea who that is, where they can answer a question about who won the Nobel Prize. But then you have your kids that kind of cross over, who are good at kind of everything. Sometimes that's our Quiz Bowl kids. We have First Robotics, which if you haven't seen the robotics team in action, that's the whole end of our building in front of the gym. We have Envirothon for our kids. They kind of pair up, and some of them do wildlife, some of them do conservation, some of them do, but it's they compete against each other as well. DI kind of starts all the way down in 2nd grade, and so they can build up where they get a problem every year, and they're kind of working toward that problem with DI in a bunch of different categories, and a lot of it's really good for our kids who are super artistic and super creative. And we do have a career component. Every year our students are completing what we call exploration credits, and once they get done with those 14 exploration credits, they can complete an 80-hour internship, and those 2 things are required, the 14 explorations and the 80-hour internship. So exploration credits, the way that students will complete those is just like it sounds. They are exploring. The whole point of the career component is for them to get to know what they like and what they don't like. They can go to a zoo, they can go to a college visit. We send them on field trips. The Sweet Angels, they're helping in the hallway. They're not just helping out the kindness of their heart, they're also earning exploration credits right now. They do a variety of things to earn exploration credits. They go to a summer camp, they go to different things. They write about those things, and then they turn it in. There has to be a little bit of research on it. So for example, the kids that are doing this tonight, they have to write about how different it was as an 8th grader when they did this, and now as a member of the academy. They have to give me some questions that they would have liked to have been asked. They have to tell me what, if anything, they would like to do differently. One of them has already turned it in from Thursday and told me different snacks, which I thought was funny. What about chips? And I was like, kids are so snack centered. But they do work for chips and cookies. And then they have to tell me about a STEM program that they can find on the internet that's not us. And so they have to do some sort of research component, and they write it up and turn it credits. So they do 14 of those their freshman, sophomore, and junior year over the course of them, not 14 a year, 14 total. So that's why I wrote 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. They can be done, those kids are done by the end of their sophomore year if they do about 3.5 exploration credits a semester for the first 2 years. Once they're done with exploration credits, they typically between their junior and senior year, they complete an 80-hour internship. We have an internship night once a year where students come and they see where the previous classes have done their internships. They get internship information, contact information, and they find out about different businesses that are looking for interns. We have interns all over the county. We have interns, kids can find an internship from a connection through the family. They can't intern with a parent or somebody they're related to, but they can use a family friend. They can do that. But there are some really specific things they have to do within they have to be mentored. They have to go through 2 different evaluations. They have to write it up. They have to give a presentation over internship night. But the reason we want them to wait until between their junior and senior year is we really want them to think about, what is it that I want to study in college? What is it that I want to do? That internship supervisor typically ends up writing one of their letters of recommendation for college and for scholarships their senior year. So that's kind of why we want them to explore about what they like and they don't like. This generation of students likes to do everything online, and we need to let them know they need to be back in person. We're gonna stop like some of the things that we've been doing. We've been giving a lot of leeway on some online stuff. And we still will do some online stuff. We know that not every parent can take their kid everywhere. We are completely aware of that. My best friend is a single mom of a 7th grader, and that child's schedule is worse than mine. And so, because she does 9 million things. So it's one of those things where we do understand, but we really want those internships to be in person. There's a lot of value. That's not to be said that your kid can't travel, and this is what I mean. We had a student do their internship in India last year. We had a student do their internship in Nigeria because they went home with their family for the summer. And so they secured an internship with a company there. One of them spoke in their native language the whole time, and they were like, God, it's hard. Because they speak it at home, but they're not used to it in a business setting. So it was really, really, really good for him. I often refer to the Academy as, and I said this during information night, the Academy is like a build your own adventure novel. For those of you who are around my age, you probably know what those are. When you're reading the book and it would say, does John jump off the cliff? Turn to page 52. Does John swim with sharks? Turn to page 34. And so you're kind of reading through a book where a lot of it's similar, but then based on your choices, it's gonna be very different. And so the Academy allows a child, yes, they have requirements. They absolutely have requirements. There are 9 million ways to do those requirements. And we think that that's what makes us unique, and that part is because it is very tailored. We can have a kid that every one of their explorations has to do with aerospace, and every one of them has to do with airplanes, and every one of them has to do with engineering, because that's what they want to do. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But in the same right, I need you to know that, like I said earlier, it is a compliment to the 100th degree if you've had a child come through here before, or another family member, or you have a friend who has put their child has come through the Academy. But that being said, your child's experience doesn't mean that it's going to mirror that child's experience. Children are very different. Okay, leadership is different. I'm different than Dr. Caffrey. We're 2 different people, my predecessors. So we're different people, so that in and of itself will make things different. There's a big sign in my office that says comparison is the thief of joy. I'm a 2nd kid. All I did was compare myself to the oldest one. So make sure that you're having those conversations, especially if you had older children go through the Academy. Sometimes, because you want them to have such a great experience, you want them here, but they may not even want to be here. So make sure you're having that conversation with your kiddos. It's a big deal. Like I said, is a high score on the ASD guarantee admission? No. Even in this room, there's a variety of scores for your children, and we do that on purpose because that's what we do. Again, kids are admitted holistically. We are crafting a class. Once accepted, I'm asked a lot, are Academy kids looked at as one high school, and College Park is looked at as a different high school? No. If your child's admitted to the Academy, they're gonna graduate from the Woodlands College Park High School. It's what their diploma says, it's what their transcript says. And I would not have spent 18 years in a building that I didn't trust. I wouldn't have spent the majority of my career when I easily could have gone somewhere else in a place that I love. They are getting the best of both worlds. They are getting a great education in a very specialized program, and they get to do it in a wonderful high school. Okay, that is not to say that they're not getting a wonderful education at any of our CISD high schools or the private schools in this area. There's a reason you all moved here. Okay, am I wrong? A lot of you moved here solely for the educational system, because it is good. Okay, that's why, that's why I stayed for 20 years. I didn't grow up with. Again, the most difficult part of AST is time management. Time management, time management, time management. We try our hardest to break bad habits early, whether it's being disorganized, whether it's doing too many things and biting off more than they can chew. The biggest thing is procrastinating. They've made an art form out of waiting until the last minute and still making an A, and they really cannot do that in high school. They can't do it in the academy. They can't do it in any upper level class at any high school. I'm telling you right now, there is a world difference. I don't know if you remember coming from 6th to 7th, and you're like, whoa, like what was that? Night and day. Junior high to high school, night and day. Okay, it's a different scene here. Does being in the academy increase my child's ability to get into a college? No. I need parents and students to understand it's a very big misconception. There's an idea, if my kid gets in the academy, they're gonna get into Harvard and Yale and Princeton. First of all, that's a lot of pressure, like on both your child and me and this program. Membership in the academy does not guarantee them membership and acceptance into these colleges. Well, this kid in the academy got into MIT, and this kid got into Yale, and this kid got into Princeton, right? But I also told you a story of a kid that's not in the academy that just got into Yale. And that happens, and the big thing that I say is, what the academy does is the academy helps them build a resume for a college that shows them dedicated interest in an area. But it's not the only thing. When you're talking about these very hard to get into schools, the first thing they're gonna look at is academics. They're gonna look at grades, they're gonna look at test scores. Our kids are special. Your kids, all of your kids, they are special. Of course they are special to us. They are going to look academically like everybody else. Like I said, Rice said 90% of their kids are admissible. That means all their grades look very similar, all their test scores look very similar. What they're looking for are those extra things that point them in a direction. So you hear the term well-rounded all the time. This kid needs to be well-rounded. They do. Colleges expect kids to do more than just one thing, but they also expect them to be directionally pointed. If a kid says, I want to be pre-med, okay, what have you done? Have you volunteered at a hospital? Have you done an internship? Did you go visit a hospital? What have you done? And what the academy really helps them do is kind of build that resume. But that being said, all of those things are also available to students who aren't in the academy. Our students, like I said, I spent 20 years almost as the college and career counselor. Our non-academy students who were getting into Rice and getting into Yale and they were doing similar things in the fact that they're building resumes that really told a comprehensive story about their life, okay? You'll hear me say a lot if you become an academy parent that the other thing our academy students have to work on is building resilience. And it's something, there's not a slide about it, but it's something I always try to talk about. Our students are really good at school, and our students are typically pretty good at their extracurricular activities, whether it's art or music or theater or athletics. They're good at what they do. In an effort to make sure that they're good at what they do, and in an effort to make sure that they get all the opportunities, sometimes we as adults try to save them from things they don't want to do, or things that might hurt, or and I don't mean physically, please get in the way if your child's gonna get physically hurt. But if they get up in the morning and they're scared to go take a test because they feel like they haven't studied enough, and they'll say, I just need one more day, let me stay home, please let me stay home, let me study one more day so I can make an A. You let them stay home. And you don't need to. You need to let them fail a little. I don't mean fail a grade, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, they need to experience being uncomfortable. And a lot of them do not know how to be uncomfortable, because in an effort to protect them, and what we do is we're taking a lawnmower and we're mowing over every obstacle and going, come on, but watch the bump, come on. And what they do is then they get to college and they don't know what to do. Because you brought their lunch when they left it at home, you brought their homework so they wouldn't make a bad grade, you make sure that they don't have to stay up on the I'll type it, go to bed. No, make them type it. Like, make them stay up, they can probably type faster than you. Give them a phone, they can type faster than all of us. So, like, it's making sure that we understand that, yes, protect your children. You have to protect your children. Look at their phones. I hope you know what's on your children's phones. I hope you're looking at them all the time. Like, I do, you pay for the bill, you might as well, it's your phone, they're just renting it, okay? Make sure